All right. So after you've done your planning, then you do your preparation. That's actually getting stuff together to actually do the activity. So you need to gather your equipment, get that all together, establish your boundaries, make sure they're obvious. You can use cones or whatever you have on hand. Sometimes people just use, notebooks and backpacks if need be. How are you going to distinguish teams and figure out a way to do that that's obvious? Bandanas is a good idea. If you have enough time for preparation, you could even get t-shirts depending on how big or lengthy your event is. Plan it just in case more or less people show up. You need to be prepared for that. Sometimes you even need to have backup games in case more people show up than the game could handle. Then you need to have a backup game in case more people show up or in case too few people show up. It's good to have backups for that. Figure out how you're going to use other people to be leaders. It shouldn't be a one-man show. Figure out how you can maybe either pick out leaders from the group depending on your activity, or if you have people that are leading with you, how are you going to manage who does what? And a lot of times it's easiest if you just prepare that. Tell people what they're going to facilitate or how they're going to handle that. And get to know who your participants are. If you have like a sign-up sheet and so you know who's coming, it's a lot easier. But you need to know your participants in order to be able to pick activities that they're going to enjoy, that they're going to be able to do, and that they're going to be able to gain as much from as possible. So be prepared for that. Test. Always test your games beforehand. You should never facilitate a game if you haven't done it before. So you should always test it in some sort of situation. Also, make sure that you're all set up, that your resources are all ready and available for you when you need them. Presentation. Okay, this is important. The presentation is a lot. There's, just like we wrap gifts, it's the same kind of idea. So when people arrive, you want to recruit them to participate by greeting them, being excited to have them there, be funny if you can be inviting. Again, watch your body language, be very friendly. Have a prop for play if need be. You could sometimes get them involved by throwing them a ball and saying, okay, you're in, or there's lots of different ways you can do it. Quick pocket game is a great way to get people involved last minute. Getting them focused to start is important. You can do this through huddles. A countdown is where you say, okay, when I get to 0, then you count down. And when I get to 0, then we're gonna start. Or freeze and melt, where you have them freeze and then just kind of melt, kind of like a snowman, to the ground. It kind of gets them to stop, especially greater with younger kids. Bandana toss is another good one. You throw a bandana, and when it hits the ground, then you start, and so they have the time to like finish what they're doing. And so the bandana toss zone is a good one. It gives them time that way to kind of finish what they're doing, or to kind of get their wiggles out really fast, especially with younger kids. Whispering is good. Younger kids, if you whisper, then they can hear you. The ones that can hear you will listen, and then everyone else will start listening. It's a really good one. People get sick of yelling, so whispering is different, and it also makes them quiet down in order to be able to hear you. A whistle, if you've got a good whistle, go for it. I don't, so I never use this one, but my husband, for example, has a great whistle, and he uses it in his elementary school classroom all the time. If you've got one, it is a great way. It kind of startles people into stopping what they're doing immediately. Breathing techniques, you can have them do like a deep breath. This works great with little kids. Or create your own. There's lots of different ways you can do it out there. All right, DDADA. This is important, probably the most important thing in this lecture. Describe, demonstrate, ask for questions, do it, and then adapt it. When it comes to facilitating a game or any activity, this is how you handle it. You describe it, what it is, maybe the purpose of it, how it works, what the rules are, everything about it. Then you demonstrate. This is the most important part. If you don't demonstrate, it's not real. They need to be able to actually see it in order to be able to really understand it. Then ask for questions. Never ask for questions before the demonstration, because their questions, most of them will be answered by the demonstration. So demonstrate, then ask for questions. Another way you could demonstrate, by the way, some games are hard to demonstrate. You can do a practice round. That's another way to do a demonstration. Kind of let them practice without any rules, and so they're able to kind of get it. Then play the game. And then watch for when you should adapt it, because very often people will get bored, or it kind of slows down, or you need to adapt it just to give extra challenge because it's getting too easy. Be ready to do that. That should always be the steps to facilitating. Describe, demonstrate, ask for questions, do it, and then adapt it. DDADA. When it comes to making teams, try and be creative. It gets old to count off always. Having people pick their own partners also can be a little awkward, especially if you're the last man standing. I mean, think of picking teams in elementary school, and you don't want to be the last one picked. So think of other ways to do it. Have them count off by fives. Fives is like the magic number. They say that if you count off by fives, then they're less likely to end up with friends than if you count off by ones, by twos, or threes. Having them split up by birthdays. Nails is talking about if you have people hold their hands out in front of them, they'll either hold it so their hands or their palms are facing up, or so their nails are facing up. And you could have the ones that have their palms facing up on one team. You could also do it with having them stand on one foot. You could have them clasp their hands together, and if their right thumb's on top, then they're in one team. If their left thumb's on top, they're on another team. Choice of 2 items, Snickers or Twix, or ideas or holidays or whatever. Presets, it's sometimes really convenient to just come with your own teams already set up, especially if you're trying to go for a certain, you don't want certain kids to be together, you're trying to make sure that they're not with friends. Presets can be really useful, especially if you have the time and you know your participants well enough. The adaptation is an important part of presentation. Be prepared to do this. To shrink or widen boundaries to make it harder or easier if needed. Have more its. Add equipment. Throw in an extra ball. Have, instead of an individual guessing, for example, like Heads Up 7-Up, have like a guessing team instead of an individual. Depending on the game, that works. Change a rule. Don't be afraid to change rules. Sometimes it's needed in order to just mix it up a little bit. Figure out ways you can include those that are eliminated. When you're outed right away in a game, it gets old really quick, just watching, depending on the game. So figure out a way that you can maybe participate that, or get them participating, involve them. Have people move in a certain way, like have them walk heel toe or do some sort of silly walk or crab walk, or however, just to kind of make it people move a little slower if need be, or just to make it more challenging. Change the name of the activity, to fit the holiday or their interests. You're going to call a certain game something for 5-year-olds different than you would for 18-year-olds. You can change things up to make it match maybe what they like, especially if you're working with kids and like there's a certain movie they all like, or a video game they like. You can call it that, and then it makes them feel more invested and excited about it. When you're facilitating games, you should be prepared to use these, particularly the DDADA, but also the 4 Ps, so that you can successfully facilitate, because all steps are really important.